Welcome back to another video. Today, we're gonna be going for a deep dive. We're gonna be diving deep all throughout all the content that was revealed in the Sims Summit. Yeah, I gotta take this thing off. We're gonna be searching the depths of the ocean for any little nugget of information that we can extract about the Sims 5. Alright. Okay. I think that was worth it. All right, so first thing I want to do is actually go over exactly what was said so we can determine whether this is an update for The Sims 4, a continuation of The Sims 4, a spin-off, or a brand new version of The Sims. Because there was a lot of confusion around it, even though I kind of thought it was pretty clear. But I want to go through exactly the words that they chose to use so that we can understand exactly what they're talking about.
I am so excited to share today a first look at the future of The Sims innovation.
Okay, so first look at the future of The Sims innovation. That immediately doesn't really give us a whole lot. Obviously, they're talking about something new, something different. So let's keep listening.
We are building the next generation Sims game and creative platform, reimagining the Sims you know and love with new ways to play.
Okay, I think that right there for me is kind of the exact wording that means new version of the main Sims game. Sorry, Lindsay. The exact words were, we're building the next generation Sims game and creative platform. The and creative platform, I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. Hopefully that's just PR, but yeah, saying next generation Sims game means it's specifically talking about The Sims and obviously the next version of it, not that it's gonna still be The Sims 4, or even if it's a spin-off. If it's a spin-off, I don't think they would refer to it as the next generation. It would be like a new, they'd say something along the lines of like a new game or something like that. They also said reimagining the Sims you know and love with new ways to play, which means obviously talking about, you know, the Sims that we play now, that's what we know and love. And they're talking about new ways to play that sort of experience, which also, again, kind of means a new version of The Sims rather than something completely different. So there'll be probably, you know, gameplay advancements, new features, etc. You know, that to me really screams that it's The Sims 5. Also, another reason I will probably continue calling this The Sims 5 until it has an official name is because saying Project Rene all the time, I feel like it's really wordy. And also saying The Sims 5, I think everyone understands what that is, rather than if I just said to someone randomly, hey, have you heard about Project Rene? They'd be like, what's that? And then you have to be like, oh, it's The Sims, but it's not The Sims 5. It's like a new, you know, it gets really complicated very quickly.
This is the future of The Sims.
Okay, that right there, this is the future of The Sims. Not of like The Sims franchise or The Sims brand or anything like that. It's the future of The Sims, like the core game. So again, that to me, you know, kind of says Sims 5 or, you know, whatever they end up calling it. To be honest, I probably reckon it's just going to be called The Sims, but we'll talk more about that later.
Built on a foundation of charming Sims, powerful tools, and meaningful stories.
So again, it's kind of just talking about what The Sims is, you know, built on, you know, build mode, live mode, and the stories we create ourselves. So it's kind of describing the same game.
This future requires us to stay true to what The Sims has always been.
That also there requires us to stay true to what The Sims has always been. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of saying this is the next version and not a spin-off or something else.
While pushing to evolve how those Sims think and behave, to push
and talking about how the Sims are actually gonna interact with the game world and specifically what they're gonna be doing, you know?
Tools even further when creating and customizing.
And that's also another element of The Sims as well, you know, build mode, creating, customizing, all that kind of stuff. If this was something completely different, it sounds a heck of a lot like The Sims that we know already.
And to explore innovative ways to not only tell stories, but to collaborate on those stories or creations with your closest friends across your favorite devices.
Okay, this is kind of where there's definitely a lot of probably like divide and apprehension, because when they start talking about multiplayer and they start talking about cross-platform play, which we also see video of, which we'll see soon again, it gets a little concerning. Because I know a lot of people just want to play The Sims by themselves. That's kind of part of the appeal. And also the cross-play, especially when they showed it running on a mobile, which again, at this point in time, everything they've shown is just like a prototype, super early. It's even a concept, you know, it's kind of like, it's something they're exploring, which again, we'll have a look more at that soon, but I guess, take everything really at this point with a grain of salt because it is so early. And especially once I see all the feedback and the community response, I'm sure they're going to do things probably differently, change things, or keep going with what people liked.
We have a growing team focused on this game, working alongside the Sims 4 and mobile team.
Okay, that's also really important because I think some people saw Project Rene pop up and they're like, oh, why are they doing this? They should be continuing working on the Sims 4. But Lindsay specifically says, I think multiple times throughout this presentation as well, they are a new team working alongside the existing Sims 4 team and the existing mobile team. So this is like a third team completely working on a separate project. And also not mentioning the fact that earlier in this very Sim Summit, they announced there's 2 new expansion packs coming. They also did specifically mention, and I'll put a clip of that in just a moment, they have more packs, kits, and free updates planned for The Sims 4.
And we also have more packs, more kits, and more free updates planned that we'll share with you when we're further along.
Along with those 2 expansion packs coming, and they're planning monthly Sims Delivery Express drops as well. So this by no means, them sharing this means that The Sims 4 is, done. Also the fact that Project Rene is multiple years away at this point. So it's a completely new project with a new team,
And now we want to share this with you earlier than ever before because we want you to be a part of our development journey.
So that's also interesting. When I first heard that, that kind of sounded like they wanted to get feedback and input, which I'm sure they will probably take a general perception from the community. But I don't think they can really take ideas unless it's done in some sort of official way, because someone did point out to me on Twitter, they actually have an official statement on their forums saying that you cannot post ideas or concepts for them to put into the game, because it's one of those things that becomes a legal issue because they can't take someone's idea and then make it and sell it, because that's taking someone else's intellectual property and publishing it and selling it. So they can't take ideas in that sense. So I guess what they mean when they're saying they want us to be on the development journey is they're going to show stuff that will probably gauge a general reaction and a general kind of thing like that. Maybe bring in focus groups and stuff, like smaller groups of people that they will probably, have some sort of agreement with to provide direct feedback on. But either way, it means that we're going to get a lot of looks at this project as it progresses, which I personally think is awesome because I love seeing game development and seeing how things are actually made. I mean, the fact that we've seen this so early is really exciting because it's going to change so much through the course of the years.
Exploring different ways to play The Sims requires us to commit to different ways of building it.
So that also there where she said exploring different ways kind of also means that nothing that they've really done yet or even shown is set in stone. It's exploration to see if it's working, see if it makes sense, which I find interesting.
Today marks the start of our journey over the next few years.
And that right there as well, next few years. It's not coming out 2023, probably not 2024. If I had to guess, the earliest I would say is probably 2025. Maybe even further than that, who knows?
Our working title for this new generation is Project Rene.
And that key phrase right there, our working title, which I don't know if I showed it very clearly in my reaction video, but a working title is assigned to pretty much any in development game. The Sims 4 was called Project Olympus before it was called The Sims 4. And that's just so when they're working on the project, especially when the public doesn't know about it, if something were to leak that included something about the game, it would say, Project Rene. People wouldn't know what that is. If it said The Sims 5 or the next Sims game, people would be like, they know exactly what that is. So they give it a project name, and it also gives them the flexibility to not be locked into a game title. Though at the same time, they could probably just change it anyway. But I reckon, look, it's either going to be called The Sims 5 or The Sims, something like that. It's probably just going to be called The Sims, I feel, especially with the way they describe how they chose Project Rene.
Now, we chose Project Rene because it's reminiscent of words like renewal, renaissance, rebirth, and it represents our renewed commitment to The Sims.
Yeah, so I think the way she explained that almost sounds like, yeah, we're going to have a fresh slate. It's going to be cross-platform, cross-play. I know she didn't use any of those words, but, the renewal of the franchise, I could see it just being called The Sims. But if I then just start talking about The Sims, that's also confusing. So I think for the sake of clarity, just calling it The Sims 5 is probably the easiest way until it has an actual name.
And that's what we're doing. We're ushering in a new future for The Sims with a new game experience and more.
Also right there, I think that's another confirmation that it is the next Sims game. A new future for The Sims with a new game experience and more. So, yeah.
Now, I want to give you all a very early behind-the-scenes look at what we're testing and exploring.
Also, I just want to point out that phrasing right there, testing and exploring, which means anything that we're seeing and the footage that they showed is probably something completely separate to what the actual game will be. You know, they might use elements of it here and there, but my understanding is the stuff that they showed is just pretty much a tech demo. And I think she even uses the words of like early technology or something when showing the stuff. So I think we need to focus on the actual features that they're showing, not the graphics or the UI, because that's kind of all nothing really. Like, you know, you get it just to give you a visual to see how it works, but it's more the features that we kind of need to have a look at and talk about.
Again, this is very early and just a few aspects of what Project Rene will grow to be.
Very early. Few aspects, obviously, because they only showed like customizing a couple bits of furniture. So if that was the whole game. Okay, so we're going to go through this footage. We're going to listen to what Lindsay says first, then I'm going to have my own input on what we're actually seeing afterwards.
Start with our creative tools, a key part of our Sims DNA. We're experimenting with what's worked and where we can push further to offer more flexibility than ever before.
Okay, so, I mean, that's pretty clear what she said. You know, especially with what's worked, what we're seeing right there is basically a version of the Sims 3 creator style tool where you could choose your colors, you could choose your patterns and textures, but then they also obviously showed changing elements of the actual furniture, which she mentions in a minute. So they're experimenting with that stuff. None of it's set in stone. And obviously, the UI is just there so that they can test it, not to look good.
We begin with the ability to change not only patterns and colors, but also the shapes of the objects that you'll be using when you build and decorate in game.
So also, specifically, she said when you build and decorate in game. So just another phrasing that obviously sounds like it's describing the Sims game, not some other spin-off game or something else. But yeah, basically what I said, they started, I guess, with what the Sims 3 had because everyone loved that. And pretty much for the entirety of the Sims 4, people have been asking for like a color wheel, that kind of stuff back again. So I think it would have been very bold of them. And I mean, I guess they could still remove it, but it'd be very bold of them not to have some sort of color wheel or customizer in The Sims 5 because the whole entirety of Sims 4, that's what people want.
For years, we've seen the power of the community coming together and sharing the cool things you can do with your friends. Whether you've used the gallery or shared your creations elsewhere, being able to celebrate each other's work has been a long-standing tradition. With Project Rene, we want to make it easier to work together and share. You can choose to play or create by yourself or with your close friends. It's entirely your choice.
Okay, that's really, really important, the way that she said that, because I personally, I'm actually really excited for like an official multiplayer Sims game. I know that's pretty uncommon, I think, with most people. Most people don't really want a multiplayer Sims. I want it because I would love to be able to play with Deligracy and Dr. Gluon and Vixella and Critic Zeus or Simsy. I mean, think of the collabs and stuff we could do. But obviously that's a niche case. You know, we're all content creators making videos. So that's probably not the majority of players. But I think the important thing that Lindsay did say was that it's entirely your choice. You know, you can play with friends or by yourself. And they're making that very clear, I think, from day one, because when they announced The Sims 4, it wasn't clear and it sounded like it was an online only game that you could only play, you know, with, you know, other people or whatever. So very good that is super clear. It will still be a single player game, but the option to also play with other people, which I'm excited for that, as long as it doesn't compromise the single player game, you know. As long as the single player experience is still as good and better than it's ever been before, I don't see any reason multiplayer can't also exist alongside it. I'm excited to see where that idea goes.
No matter who you may want to play with, we want you to be able to play wherever you want. So this is demonstrating an early technology test of how you can play this game across supported devices of your choosing.
Okay, this is where things start to get a little worrisome. Just gonna jump over here so we can still see the phone there. Okay, so that's clearly describing cross-platform play, which would presumably include consoles as well. So PC, consoles, Mac, and then also mobile devices. That's where it gets a little concerning. I guess right off the bat, I think it's very cool. If that works without compromising the PC version, like the PC version should be a full-fledged, you know, PC game, top quality, as good as it can be. And if the mobile experience doesn't impact that, then that's fine. I'm just worried that, you know, having the mobile experience is going to have to require the main game to be dumbed down. In theory, the concept is very cool. Again, if it works with no compromises, very cool. Now, Lindsay also did say this is an early technology test, which again, doesn't mean it's something that they're committed to. It doesn't even mean the way that they're showing it working is how it will work or any of those things. It just means we're testing to see if we can even do this. Like, is this something we can do? And if it is, should we keep doing it? So that's kind of what they're exploring at this point in time. Nothing is set in stone. I mean, look, the mobile version, maybe it's just something where you could jump on mobile, add a couple of items in, but maybe it's not the fully fledged game. Maybe it even streams off a server. You know, there's a lot of services now where you can stream your video games. I mean, well, Google Stadia used to exist, it doesn't anymore. But you know, you can stream video games off some services. So maybe if you join on your mobile, it's actually streaming the game from online rather than it running on your mobile. And if that's the case, that means it could play the full-fledged game and just have the interface work on mobile. So that's a potential that it could work that way, but who knows? We just don't know. At this point, they're just showing, hey, this is an idea that we have, we're testing it. It's an idea that worries me. And I think a lot of people, at the end of the day, as long as the main game on PC and Mac and all that is fully featured, looks great, runs really well, that's kind of what's important to me. And then if this other stuff is on the side, that's also really cool. Just don't be messing with my main game.
Same experience, different screens. Now, this is just a small taste of what Project Rene and the team is working on alongside the Sims 4 and mobile teams.
Again, she just reiterated that yes, this is a completely different team to the Sims 4 and the Sims Mobile, so it's not impacting the development on those projects, which I think is good because I think a lot of people do get a little concerned when they announce a new game that the old one is just going to disappear, but they've already announced many new things coming for the Sims 4, so I don't think we have to worry about that, at least not for another couple years at this point.
Over the next couple of years, we'll continue sharing updates with all of you on Project Rene. We'll share in-progress work, explorations, sneak peeks, and behind-the-scenes content.
I'm actually really excited to see all this stuff that they're going to post because I don't know how frequently it's going to be. Look, it might be 6 months or maybe once a year. Hopefully not that far apart, but it's going to be these little bits of information and they're going to show a new thing that they've got or they're going to show how it's improved or changed. And I think I actually watch so many like development videos on YouTube of just like people making their own games and stuff. And I personally find that really fascinating. So to get a look behind the scenes of how a AAA Sims game is going to be coming along, I mean, that's so exciting.
As well as start to open up early access to Project Rene's software to small groups over time.
Hello. Hi, EA. I'm here. I'm willing to sacrifice myself to test and come check out some early access stuff. So if you need me, I'll be right here.
And I'll say it one more time before I go. This is super early for us, and we've never shared information about our games years before they launched to the world, but we are so excited to take you on this journey with us. Now, the best way to keep up with all of this and any news about Project Rene, alongside news of The Sims 4 and mobile games, is to sign up with thesims.com and follow our social channels for any updates from the Sims team.
Cool. So that's pretty much everything that Lindsay specifically said about Project Rene. And I think, like I said, going through all of that, I think it's pretty clear that it's a new game, brand new game. It's a new main title, The Sims game. It's the next generation. And for all intents and purposes, I'm going to be calling it The Sims 5 until we have an official name. Now, we're not done. We're going to go and look at that footage and we're going to sort of have a closer look at what they're actually showing to get an idea of what's going on. All right, so here we are. I guess, look, before we get into this, the elephant in the room, I think a lot of people are saying that it looks similar to what Paralives has been showing off over the past, I guess, 3 years now. I think Paralives have been sharing videos and stuff. Look, I think elements of it, yeah, probably, but also at the same time, like this color wheel, the patterns, the textures, that's stuff from Sims 3. Like pretty much what we're seeing right now anyway is Sims 3 stuff. I think probably the closest element of stuff that people have been pointing out is like Paralives is, you know, placing cushions. I think Paralives had a specific thing where they showed placing cushions. But to be honest, the way that this is working doesn't look very good. And I think Paralives' version of this looks better anyway. So I don't know. Look, this is so early on. I don't think we can really judge anything definitely at this point because this footage could have even been from, who knows, 6 months ago. We don't know when this is from. They didn't say, hey, we filmed this earlier today or last week or something. But yeah, we saw something like this in a Paralives video. And I guess the other thing in Paralives, I think really early on, they showed adjusting a bed size in Paralives. So, I mean, that's kind of Yeah, I don't know about that. That is eerily similar. But I think other than that, it's pretty much kind of what I would expect to see from the next version of a Sims game. We got creator style tool and just placing items. Most of this is not really new, except for, changing the item like this. You can see you can change separate parts of the object, which is kind of cool. And if we have a look back here, I just wanted to have a look at these little things on the side. So surface, shape, accent. So surface, what I can see is that opens up the colors and the textures. The shape will open up, where you can change the bed head and the size of the bed. And then the accents, as far as I'm aware, is like putting the cushions on the stuff. So it looks like that's kind of their base setup for customizing objects that they have at the moment. And that's what I'm gathering from those buttons. And then over this side, now again, there's probably not much point even analyzing the buttons and stuff they have, because there's 100% chance all of this is going to change. There's no way any of this is staying the same. But over on that side, we can see there's a few buttons. I think undo, redo, pretty standard. The mouse, I think, is just a selection tool. And then the magnet with a grid, I think that's just using the grid and snapping items to the grid. The camera, I mean, that could do a lot of things. Maybe just changes the camera mode, who knows. So yeah, here we can see the select surface colors. Again, pretty much like the one in Sims 3. That's nothing new. So we've seen that before, but it's good to see that they are bringing that back, because I think that's really important. And here as well, like in Sims 3, you can choose all your patterns. And I wouldn't worry that any of these patterns will end up in the game, because they look pretty basic. I think they're just testing. So there's that. And then we move into the shapes section, which is where you can change the cushions and, different elements of whatever item you're working on. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is just, I guess, the general aesthetic of what we're looking at. I don't think anything that we're seeing here is anything of what the game is going to look like in the end. Like, it might be similar, but all this stuff, I'm almost guaranteed, is just placeholder items so that they can test how this stuff is going to work, how it's going to interact. I mean, half of these items, and people have pointed out, kind of just look like items that you could buy off an asset store. Like, if you're making a game, the game engine usually has a library of items that you can use or buy that other people have created just for testing purposes, or to put in your game. So I'm not saying that that's what they did, but this kind of just looks like items that they're like, hey, let's get these in, let's test those, just so we can get all this up and running very quickly, rather than spending lots of time refining how it looks. So that's kind of why I don't think there's any use judging how any of this looks right now. Having said that, though, it is really interesting to me that this whole room that they're building in is on a diagonal. It looks like a regular 45-degree diagonal that we'd have in Sims, 4, 3, and 2, and 1, or whatever. But to me, that might suggest that they're trying to work on a better way to build, different walls, different angles, and how items are going to interact with that. Obviously, they're not showing any of that, and that's pure speculation, but it is a very specific way to have this building demonstration, Like, I would never build a diagonal house in The Sims 4 just to show off some feature, It's very, very intentional that they have this, I think. Not necessarily for this demo, but I think they're probably working towards something on that, The other thing we should have a look at here is we can see, let's just move over here a little bit. Here we go. I think there's 3 people playing right here. The top left of the screen has a number 3 next to a little person icon. As our view that we're seeing here, we're moving around separately. Then we also have Autumn Star doing something over here with the counter. We got Pranches 00 up there working on something over there. So I think we have 3 people here working together on the same build, which is interesting. And I think like I said, I'm pretty excited for that aspect, as long as it doesn't detract from anything else. So we got 3 different people right in this scene playing together. They're placing that. Autumn Star and Pranches is doing something. Oh, someone left. Someone got mad. They're probably like, oh, what did you do to my build? We only got 2 people left. And there's also multiple object selection, as we can see, something they're experimenting with, which is very nice. So you can share that set of items, or at least that's the idea. Who knows if this ends up in the game, but that's nice. Multiple selections, so you can move a whole group of items at once instead of one by one. I also want to go back real quick. I think we can see the result of them sharing that set of items here, because we have this set of items here, and then look, the exact same layout of items right here in this room. So they've already saved it and placed it somewhere else, which is kind of cool. I think that's kind of cool. They can do a whole living room set of stuff without having to include the walls and floor like you do in The Sims 4. It's a cool idea anyway. Now we could also go through and analyze all this stuff, but to be honest, looking at this stuff, like I said before, it kind of just looks like placeholder stuff that they've just done quickly to get up and running. Also, another thing that leads me to believe that this is all kind of placeholder is, look, when they're selecting the coffee table, the candles and like the baguette of bread and stuff is like actually part of the item, which is not something you'd probably normally see in The Sims. So I think they've just grabbed that item from something. Obviously, the other two things that aren't selected on it are separate, but I think that these are just placeholder things, you know. Or other theory is when you do the custom of accents, like we were placing cushions, maybe that's how you place stuff on the coffee table. So I don't know. That could also be how that works. All right, jumping into this section of the video where we have a computer and a mobile. Now, one thing that people pointed out in this was down the bottom, you can see there's a big button that says apartment selection, which to be honest, I wouldn't read that much into it. This is years away. I wouldn't even bank on apartments being in this game. Obviously, at this point in time, it is, but this could just be a test area, and they call it apartments because they have separate little places. I don't know. It could mean nothing. It could mean everything. Who knows? But yeah, so this is just another demonstration of the multiplayer across devices doing the same thing as we saw before. Has, you know, a more compact UI on the mobile, but everything on the mobile looks like you can do it on the PC as well. And we already talked about that. I mean, who knows how that's going to work? Hopefully it does not impact the rest of the game. So that's kind of everything I've really noticed and been able to pick apart from the presentation that we actually got from the Sims Summit. If there's any other information that you guys have known or picked up, please let me know in the comments down below, or any of your thoughts on all of this. I am really excited to see this game develop and change. You know, I'm excited to see where it goes and how they approach the idea of cross-platform and multiplayer without compromising the main game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that kind of maybe cleared up some things for you, made some things a little bit more obvious what they were talking about. I think it's pretty clear that this is the next Sims game, and it's years away. We're going to see how it develops. And I think it's pretty exciting because we've never got to see a Sims game at this state before. And I'm really looking forward to where this is going. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Make sure to leave your comments, suggestions, and feedback down below. And have an awesome day.